I, a 28 years old female, never could have imagined that a seemingly small issue, something as trivial as a pair of earrings, could escalate into the chaos that has unfolded in my life. It all started when my mother in law, 55 years old female, took it upon herself to pierce my 8-month-old daughter Annie's ears without asking for my permission first. I've been married to my husband for 4 years now, and while I'm still a first time mother, I don't consider myself overly paranoid or too strict about things. I believe in being protective, but I also trust my instincts and judgments when it comes to raising my daughter. Last Friday, my mother in law asked if she could pick Annie up from daycare early so she could spend some time with her. This wasn't an unusual request. She had done it before, and I had never had any issues with it. My husband and I have always tried to be flexible when it comes to family spending time with Annie. I agreed, thinking it would just be another casual afternoon. I didn't foresee the disaster that was about to unfold. Later that evening, I went to pick up Annie from my mother in law's house, and something immediately caught my eye. Annie's ears were pierced. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was in shock and, honestly, furious. I immediately asked my mother in law why she thought it was okay to pierce my daughter's ears without consulting me first. She seemed so calm, almost as if it was no big deal, which only added to my anger. My mother in law had asked me in the past about getting Annie's ears pierced, and I had been very clear about my stance. I told her that I wasn't interested in subjecting my baby to any unnecessary pain for something cosmetic. I also didn't think babies looked good with earrings. It just wasn't my thing. But instead of respecting my wishes, she went ahead and did it anyway. When I confronted her, her response was infuriating. "You should thank me. She didn't feel any pain." Apparently, my daughter's pain only mattered when I was there to witness it. She acted as though because I wasn't around to see the piercing, it somehow didn't count. It's almost as if she thought that her version of reality superseded mine. I immediately told her that she had absolutely no right to make such a decision on my behalf. I made it clear that she had gone against my wishes, and this was not something she should have done without consulting me first. Her response only made things worse. She tried to justify her actions by saying that because I had let her pick Annie up from daycare, I had essentially entrusted her with decisions like these. She claimed this was one of those decisions. This was when I truly realized how far she was willing to take things. It wasn't just about the earrings anymore. It was about control, and she was clearly testing boundaries. Then, to add insult to injury, I learned that my mother-in-law had taken Annie to a cheap jewelry store in the mall to get her ears pierced. If I had planned to pierce my daughter's ears, I would have taken her to a professional, someone who specializes in piercing infants, not some random mall jeweler. The thought of my baby being subjected to this procedure in such an unprofessional setting was unbearable. When I told my husband about what had happened, he was just as upset as I was, if not more. He immediately called his mother and let her know how disappointed he was in her actions. He told her that she had violated our trust and that she couldn't be alone with Annie anymore. She responded by accusing me of manipulating him, saying that I was brainwashing him with my pseudo-hippie ideals. It seemed that everything was somehow my fault in her eyes. But the situation didn't stop there. The next day, my husband took the step of removing her from the list of approved people who could pick Annie up from daycare. It was clear that my mother-in-law could no longer be trusted. She had overstepped, and it wasn't just the piercing. It was the complete disregard for our parental authority. Then came the apology, or rather, the so-called apology. My mother-in-law sent me a message on Facebook, claiming that she never meant to upset me and that she loved Annie with all her heart. She said that it broke her heart when my husband told her that she wasn't welcome to see Annie anymore. But it wasn't an apology that acknowledged her wrongdoing. It was a passive-aggressive message designed to make me feel guilty for being upset. She even went so far as to imply that I was overreacting, saying, "I never imagined you would react so dramatically." It's funny how she can't seem to see the issue with her actions. She also threw in the line, "It takes a village to raise a child," as if I owed her something just because she was Annie's grandmother. I don't care if she's Annie's grandmother or not. She has no right to make major decisions about my child without my consent. That was the crux of the problem. My mother-in-law believed that her opinion should carry more weight than mine as Annie's mother. After the apology, things only got worse. My mother-in-law began reaching out to other family members, trying to gather support for her actions. Most of the family sided with my husband and me, though, or simply stayed out of it entirely. One of the family members she tried to involve was my 20-year-old sister, who sometimes babysits Annie. My sister's boyfriend would occasionally stay with her when she babysat because they live about 45 minutes away, but my mother in law didn't approve of this arrangement. She had only met him a couple of times, but she already decided that he was a threat to Annie. She accused us of inviting trouble by allowing my sister's boyfriend to change Annie's diapers. This led to another escalation of crazy behavior from her. She called my husband, threatening to report us to child services because of this dangerous situation. She claimed that having a man stay over, even if he was my sister's long-term boyfriend, was putting Annie at risk. My mother-in-law insisted that we were asking for trouble, but I couldn't even begin to process what she was saying. The situation got even more surreal when she threatened to call child services on us. My husband was firm with her, telling her that if she continued with this behavior, she would no longer be welcome to see Annie at all. This didn't seem to faze her in the least. Things reached a breaking point when, one night, my mother-in-law went so far as to call 911. She claimed that my daughter was alone with a sexual predator and that Annie was in danger. When the police arrived at our house, they were understandably concerned and very professional, but the whole thing was so embarrassing. We explained the situation and the officers were supportive, recommending that we file a harassment report and pursue a restraining order. They assured me that they had dealt with worse situations, but I still couldn't believe it had come to this. The next day, my husband and I had a serious discussion. We decided that we needed to protect our family and cut my mother-in-law out of our lives for good. She had shown time and time again that she couldn't be trusted, and she had violated so many boundaries that we couldn't continue a relationship with her under these circumstances. I also had to remind myself that it wasn't just about the earrings. It was about the fact that she felt entitled to make decisions about my child without even consulting me. The next twist in this saga came when my mother-in-law left an angry voicemail for my husband. In it, she claimed she could prove that my sister's boyfriend was a predator. Her reasoning? When he was 12, he had developed feelings for my sister, who was also 12 at the time. According to her logic, this made him a predator. This was the level of madness we were dealing with. We didn't take her seriously, of course, but it was clear that her grip on reality was slipping. We decided it was time to pursue a restraining order. After everything that had happened, we needed to protect Annie from any further emotional harm. If my mother-in-law truly believed she was in the right, then we would let the legal system handle it. We were done trying to reason with her. The damage had been done, and to think all of this started with a pair of earrings.